Hello and welcome back to the TT podcast. This is part 2 of Ian Lougher's amazing chat. If you're not listening to part 1, make sure you go back and do so. We got to the end of, well, we only just kind of started with your TT debut, but I want to fast forward because I hate doing this because between this and your first win, I dare say there are so many stories that we need to hear about. But I do want to get onto your first TT win. Tell us about it. When was it?
1990.
1990, sorry. I was going to say 2000.
Yeah,
sorry,
not
1990.
2000.
Yeah. Production 250.
Long time ago. The first TT win was the junior race.
Yep.
Which was basically the racing 250s of the time, you know, so RS 250s and TZ 250s. So I was riding for Ray Cowles on his TZ 250, and it was just a fantastic race. It's a bit of a fairy tale for me, to be honest, because I couldn't believe it. But the story starts really. People go, "Oh, that bike was this, that bike was that," but it wasn't. It was just the way when you're riding at that level. And I was doing European Championships and British Championships, and I was a better rider on roads than I am on the short circuits. But I can sort of do it now and again on the short circuits, if you like. But Steve Hislop could do it everywhere.
Yeah.
And we were doing European Championships, and I remember being in Califat beginning of the year, and European Championship, and he says he was on pole position, like in front of Biaggi and all these people, you know.
He was.
And I was 32nd, and I'm thinking, God, you know, like it just. And he comes around the van, and we were friends because the first Manx Grand Prix we did, Ray Cowles, who we mentioned before, he sponsored Gary Hislop, which was Steve's brother. So we were already friendly from then on. We remained friends, you know, the rest of his life. And anyway, we're in Califat, and so he comes around the van. He said, and he was all, you know, you remember this? He was all like, "Oh yeah, you know, we get the TT, and the lap record there was 114, and there's Eddie Leacock's lap record, which is a very good lap record, and he was talking about 116. Steve was, and I was like, oh, I was so demoralised. I remember sitting there going, and the fastest I'd been then was 110 on a 350. So
you need to find 6 miles an hour.
I need to find 6 miles an hour from somewhere. And, you know.
And do you think he was saying this to kind of burst your bubble? Or
no, I don't. I really don't. It's just Steve.
His enthusiasm.
Yeah, enthusiasm. Exactly, you know what he was like? Yeah. He was, you know, wasn't he, with his fingers, his hands.
So animated and and descriptive.
Yeah,
unbelievable.
He was great, wasn't he? He was infectious, wasn't he? And anyway, so I was like, all right, okay. He detuned me, and anyway, we went back, and then I went to Hockenheim, I think, on the 125, and I finished about 10th, and it sort of got me going again. The 250 again, I was rubbish, so I went 125 somewhere else, and I was 10th. I think it was Aston or somewhere, and then we went to the Northwest, and it just brings you on so much. You ride that out of your skin everywhere, every corner. And then British Championship, and then back to European. And then we went to the Northwest, and there was a massive... Eddie Leacock won both races, 250 races. And there was a gang of about 15 people going for second. And I ended up with a second and a third, and the lap record. So I came out of the Northwest, and I thought, yeah, I can do this. There were places where other people who I thought were absolutely gods were in my way in the corners.
Yeah.
And I was thinking... Yeah, the penny sort of was starting to drop, you know. And the problem was, we got the TT, and at the Northwest, the bike was starting to jump out of gear. And it was getting a bit naughty, like going from 6th to 4th and things like that. And it was like, whoa, you know. I said, we got to get this thing sorted, otherwise. So I tried it in practice, and was doing it, and it wasn't nice. And then, got the Thursday practice, and we got it sorted. There was something in the engine, in the gearbox, that wasn't quite 90 degrees and it was missing. Anyway, so we got it sorted, and I went out and I said, right, I'm going to go out, and if it's sorted, I'll do a flying lap. But if it's not, then I'm going to park the bike. And that was it. So went out and did the first lap. I thought, right, it's sorted. So I went for a flyer, and I broke the lap record by 18 seconds. So it was 115.8. And like I remember Fred Clark was there in the pit lane, and he was
commentating.
Yeah. Well, no, he's actually in the pit lane doing a bit of commentating.
Right.
You know, in practice, and he was wow, you know. I remember George Fogarty coming up and bringing Carl with him, you know, saying, "Oh, look, shake his hand." He's going, and you know what Carl's like, and shook my hand. Anyway, he jumps on the 250 to go and try and better it, obviously, and he's at about 112. So, then.
Did you know it was that fast when you were out there doing it or not?
No, because you're in that zone of every corner, every lap, perfect. You know, like you're on a short circuit, like you're up. You know, you're trying to beat Steve Islop at Califat or somewhere. You know, and it was just riding at that level against people who were, wow, you know, and you just do every corner. You don't sort of get yourself into it slowly. You're like, right, this is it, you know, and. I went into the race then and didn't feel any sort of pressure really, because I thought, oh, wow, what have I done there? You know, broke lap record in practice means nothing when it comes to the race. Yeah. And then we ended up taking another 20 seconds above that. So it was 38 seconds. Me and Steve,
Faster than the
existing record. So it's a second a mile. Which is bonkers, isn't it? You know, even now I think, how did I do that? You know, but you know, he's struggling to do those speeds now on the circuit's much faster. Yeah. But it was a fantastic race, and Steve and I were only, I think the maximum was 3.5 to 4 seconds. In one point, he gained on me, but then I'd make it back a bit, and then he'd, you know, this bike was a privateer, the Yamaha, you know. There was nothing special about it other than Raymond had done a bit of tuning on it. It was on avgas. You were allowed to run blue gas, they called it at the time, which was very high octane stuff, which Steve was using because he could afford to run it. He was riding for Honda Britain, they were called then. Yeah. And you were allowed to use it, no problem. But we couldn't afford it, but we didn't think we needed it really with what we had. And but the bike was competitive. It was good, and that was it. And so we ended up, they made a bit of a thing that Steve's mechanic dropped the cap into the fairing, but he lost probably 2 seconds because it dropped down and he had to pick it up again. But my brother, he was putting the cap back on, but he cross-threaded it. Oh, nice. So he had to, because there weren't any flip caps then in those days. So he had to undo it again and do it back up. So it was probably about the same, really. Yeah. And anyway, I ended up winning it by 1.8 seconds. Oof. And 117.8. So I was almost under an 18. And the lap record, the outright lap record then, held by Steve Cull, I think it would have been Steve Cull. 119, 120.
Yeah.
That's right. Steve had done 120 the year before. That's right, on the RC30. Yeah. So it wasn't far away from the outright lap record on a 250.
On the big bikes,
Yeah. It's amazing, really.
You can, obviously, the way you're talking, part one and now, your love for the two strokes, you know. Yeah. You've been around a lot of years, and like I said in part one, obviously racing the British Championship and so on. What about the Ian Lougher collection back home? What have you got?
There's a lot of unpolished trophies, I know that.
It's not a bad
thing. A lot of silver ladies, not looking very silver at the minute, but no, you've won them, so it's nice, isn't it? You know, I've got various things. I've got various 250s, and you know,
all two strokes.
Yeah, I've got a Z900 road bike, which is basically harps back to when I was 12 on the back of my brother. same bike. Not the same bike, but same model bike. So things like that. I've little VFR 400 she bought recently and things. But mainly two-stroke. I'm a two-stroke person. The race, what I like about it is the fact they're not road bikes converted. You know, they're actually, you buy them as a race bike. Yeah. You know, that is it. You get them from Japan and that's it. It comes in white and then you paint it whatever and you get a spares kit with it and yeah,
there's something about a two-stroke, and the fact that it's not simply just getting on it and riding it like we spoke about in part one, jetting, fueling, getting everything right. It's the
smell
and the setup as well.
Sound, fabulous.
Yeah.
And you know, you started all those years ago. We're here recording this podcast at the Manx Grand Prix, and you're still riding two strokes.
Yeah,
Why?
I'm riding.
Why?
I can't say no. I think. I don't know. I'm too stupid to do anything else. I think.
But obviously the passion's still there.
Oh yeah. No, absolutely. Yeah. I question myself a lot. You know, I think I'm 59 now. I'm thinking, bloody hell, I still.
But you still enjoy it though.
Yeah, I still enjoy it.
When I started racing, you were one of the old stalwarts. Very, very fast, even British Championship as well as the roads. And you were one of the kind of, in my mind, the older generation, really. And you're still flipping hard at it.
Yeah, I know. I remember 1998. I almost won the Winter Five British Championship. There was 2 points, lost it by 2 points.
Who won?
And Chris Palmer. Oh. And we were described at the time as the over 30s championship or something, because it was Robin Appleyard, Steve Patrickson, myself, Palmer.
Huge depth of talent.
There was probably 10 people who could win the race at that point. You know, it was good. It was a good championship. But as I said at the time, Leon Haslam was in the championship that year, and we had a couple of ding dongs. You know, he beat me once or twice, and I beat him a couple of times. But you learn from the older people. You know, you don't
massively.
You know, I'm not a fan of this putting you in old people's home when you're over the top and getting rid of the older guys who were in the championship. Like going back in the day, Jorge Martinez, Aspar, one of the best riders on small bikes. He never moved up to 250s or got pushed up, should we say. With these days now, you get to 26, is it?
That's right. 26
in
and you're out.
Moto 3, and you have to move up. You know, I don't think you should have to. You know, if you're a small guy, you should be allowed to stay. Why? You know, and the younger guys coming through can learn a lot of racecraft from the older people, you know, because that's what you learn, you know. Whereas now you've got a championship of 14 to 15 to 25 year olds, and they're, you know, but these people should be learning off the older guys, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I don't know.
Tell us,
it's my own opinion.
You know, we spoke just before part one, actually, off air. Obviously, you had quite a bit of time with Joey Dunlop, you know, and some great memories. You were a fan as well. Tell us a little bit about your time with him.
Yeah, Joey. Yeah, he was. Yeah, just a very shy, quiet, nice person. I remember going. Yeah, we spent a bit of time together on the roads in Northern Ireland and down the south as well in Southern Ireland and Southern Hundred. And then we went to. There was a trip went to New Zealand. So in 1994, so we got to know him a lot more over there. 27 of us on a trip that lasted 7 weeks, and
27 motorcyclists.
Yeah, well, some of them mechanics.
Yeah,
there was about 12 riders, I think, and the rest were there for
7 weeks.
Yeah, and it was sponsored by Guinness, so you can imagine what happened. So it was just, it was a great trip. At the time, it was tiring, of course, you know, because we were on a bus a lot of the time, and you know, drinking, and in between going to places, and then we get there, think, all right, a night off now tonight. And then they'd say, "Oh no, come on, we'll go off down the club." No, not again. But no, it's so I got to know Joey quite a bit over there, and then we went to Macau. I think it was my second time at Macau. It was '97, and he had his brother Jim with him, and Jim and I got on really well. And Joey was so quiet, you know, even though he knew you, and he wouldn't sort of stop. And you walked in the garages, he wouldn't sort of he'd sort of. You think, he doesn't want to talk to me. He's not bothered about me. Or, you know, that's just how Joey was. So then I'd start talking to Jim, and they'd say, and then, you know, we ended up just going for lunch somewhere or something, you know, and he just liked being with normal people. He didn't like a lot of flash. Yeah. I remember coming when we came back having something to eat, and he said, "Oh, I've got to go to this thing tonight, Joey. This, you know, this thing down at Presentation or something." "Oh, I'm going there." I said, "No, you got it." That means, no, I'm not going there. I'm not bothered about going there. And he says, I said, "No, I've got to go." You know, we told him we're going. "Oh, right. So we go back to the hotel and say, "Right, you have to wear some trousers and a shirt." I mean, you know, nothing too posh. Right? Okay. So he goes back to his room, and Jim changes. They were sharing a room. They come back down. Joey's got exactly the same things on: his shorts and his trainers and his t-shirt. He's, "I can't be bothered to change." He was just funny, you know.
It wasn't that he was against the, like.
No, he wasn't trying to stand out.
Yeah,
definitely not.
He literally was
just wanted to blend into the background, you know.
Yeah, almost disappear.
We won a road for Honda, late 90s, and my teammate was Wolsey Coulter.
Yeah.
And
he was a fantastic rider.
Oh, incredibly fast. And was at Alexandra Palace bike show. There was 2 bike shows in those days, the NEC and Alexandra Palace. And Joey was supposed to be there with Honda, you know. And I've raced against Joey on the roads, northwest and bits and bobs. And didn't know him particularly well, but because you couldn't get close to him anyway.
You couldn't get really close to Joey, no.
Anyway, but we got on, but it wasn't close. But Joey was supposed to turn up at Ali Pally show. Nobody had seen hide and hair of him. Bob McMillan was there, Dave Hancock, who were the bosses at Honda. And Wolsey and I were walking back up to town to the hotel where everybody stayed from Honda at the time, and we bumped into Joey on the street, half cut. He'd been there all day and just been doing a pub crawl on his own. Met up with loads of people, met up with loads of buddies, in a happy place.
Yeah.
And then come back to the show later on and just paid to get in. You're kidding? But that was Joey.
Yeah. He was the most down-to-earth person who just wanted to just race and, you know,
what
do
a character.
the minimum to what was, you know,
Yeah.
a character with it. It was genuine, not trying to be different, you know. So I liked about him.
He definitely grew up in the right era for that then.
Yeah.
If he was here nowadays, it'd be...
Oh, he'd struggle now.
Yeah.
Like towards the last couple of years there, he'd smarted himself up a bit and whatever.
Yeah.
And because he was sort of pushed into it and did it. And yeah.
And what about Robert? You raced a lot against Robert as well.
Yeah, he spent a lot of time with Robert as well, and especially at the Southern 100 and
Robert Dunlop,
those
sorry.
sort of, Robert was good, but Robert understood the
trade, the mechanism.
And
The circus.
Yeah.
The circus. Yeah, a lot more. Yeah, and could really. I think Robert could sort of play to it a bit better. You know, he was and
good rider.
Yeah, good and a good personality as well, and very good. But he was just different to Joey. You know, he had more of an idea what was, you know, with the the sort of corporate side to it, and you know, he understood that more than Joey. But and a lot younger as well, so we would understand it better. You know, because Joey was already in his mindset of what he wanted to do, and Robert could see different side to it. You know, so things were changing.
So what do you think about the riders of this generation then? Are they all a bit, shall we say, a bit soft compared to those back in the day?
I think they wear a lot of sunglasses. A lot of them. But and hair gel. I'm just jealous. Not mentioning Steve, but no, it's just a different generation. You know, what can you say? You've got to go with what's there. You know, and you have to make. These days, it's all revolved around sponsorship, and you know, I'm not saying the right thing, but you have to be a bit more diplomatic. But it is difficult for them to be their own self, I think, as well. You know,
it almost takes the edge off it.
I think
it's like a diluted version of
you have
people
to be
nowadays.
A bit smarter.
Yeah.
In your reactions as well, especially when things are down, things are negative, to keep yourself kind of presentable and you know.
I remember riding the Kawasaki in 90. This is going back to 91. I thought I won the TT in 1990, that first TT, and then 91 I got offer from. Well, it was actually through John Whedon. Actually, he was helping me and sponsored me as well. And he went to see, tried to get something off Yamaha. The Yamaha, oh no, our spaces were full. Honda had about 4 or 5 riders at the time. I wanted to move up to an RC30 or something, see, because I thought, well, that's where the money is. That's where the prestige is and all that. It always is, isn't it? So anyway, John went to see Kawasaki. So we went down to Bone End to go and see Kawasaki and go and see Colin Wright, who was running it then, just starting to take over from his father at that time. So we ended up getting a deal to ride John Reynolds' ZXR 750, which would have been a superbike, you know. And came across not big truck, but truck, 4 mechanics, 2 bikes. I thought, this is it, hit the jackpot. And the thing just wouldn't handle it. It was terrible. Just in those days, you know, and it turned out that we heard a year later that the rear link on the chassis was on the swing arm was no good, and it wouldn't handle over the bumps, and it was awful. So they pulled the plug on it on the Thursday or Friday of practice week. Kawasaki did themselves. They said they didn't want anybody getting hurt, you know. Wow. And people would ask you, you know, how was it going? And I remember sitting there thinking, and I could say just what I wanted to, just like a lot of people would say. I said, no, we just got some technical issues, you know. But it's so easy to just come out and say exactly what you want, you know. But you have to
You have to
think of Kawasaki. You have to think of...
think of the brand.
Yeah, think of the brand, you know. Once, but yeah, a year later they got it sorted, but I didn't have a deal with them then, so...
I could sit here and talk about old names all day long, because you've raced with them, beaten them, and, you know, some spectacular people, really. But, you know, we mentioned Joey, Robert, there's obviously a lot named Steve Hislop, but one person I want to get your opinion, because obviously he was very different to those guys in his riding and his personality. But how were you with him, and especially around him on the TT course, Phillip McCallen?
Oh my God.
I knew it.
I hope you weren't going to ask me this.
We'll leave that there.
Have you got the bleeper?
You say and do what you feel.
Phillip was just... I've never ridden against anybody who would just ride completely through you and over the top of you for 20p. You know, he was just... Yeah. And I didn't understand his riding. I've always tried to be a thinking rider. There's a hill coming up, you're slipstreaming someone and say, right, I won't pass him yet, I'll just get him right to the point, right into that next corner, I can pull a little bit and then I can win the race type thing. With Phillip just wanting to get in front of you.
Yeah.
And then you could just pass him easily, you just look at him going past thinking, why did you pass me there? You know, it was just so unthinking, you know, not a thinking rider, and that's what I hated about it. You know, the number of people at the Northwest around one time came back into the awning thinking, you're looking at the paint on your arm or on the side of the bike, his paint, you know, and you think, and then somebody else would walk in on it and somebody else would, you should have seen who just knobs knocked me off. You know, it's just like that. It's just, yeah, I hated riding against him. I hated that thought of why he couldn't think more. That's what I hated, you know. He just couldn't think.
Yeah.
He just got to the front, and of course he did well and whatever. Around the Alemanni he did fantastic and whatever, but how he made it, I really don't know. I really don't know.
That's amazing, because all I ever knew of Phillip was watching the racing, and to look at him, so unassuming, so quiet. But then I've got to know him a little bit. I've got to know some of the stories, and yeah, he sounds like a ruthless.
Yeah, ruthless is the word.
I didn't have a problem. I raced a lot against him on Supersport and things. And to be quite honest, I'd never really had any issues. And you know,
Is that because you were so far behind him, or?
No. I could beat him at different places. You know, and when I was coming through at the Northwest, he was the target. He was one of them to beat. You know, I know I didn't beat him there, I think, and he quickly moved on to World Championship at the time. But he was slipping good. Obviously, he was fast. Obviously, but it didn't. It's funny. It's different ways, and but you're a silky smooth rider as well.
I just felt that he probably didn't give you any hassle because he was the one who was not quite. He felt. I think he felt on the roads that he was the man.
Yeah,
and he would try and bully you.
Yeah.
Then people would be scared of him. I think.
Yeah.
Whereas on the short circuits, he wasn't quite a good a rider.
Yeah.
And he wasn't like winning every weekend. And then he probably thought, he couldn't bully you. Because a short circuit, especially in those days with the super sport and that, you had to get your elbows out, didn't you?
You're flipping at you. Yeah.
You know, it was real tough.
Yeah.
And he couldn't bully people because people would bully him back.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You know, it's on the roads. You can't bully people like that because there's hedges and walls and stuff. You know.
Yeah.
Well, you wouldn't be
so you have to have respect for it, and that's what I didn't like. He didn't have respect for it. You know.
So again, like Steve said, we could sit here and talk for hours about days gone by. Let's move up to becoming a team manager now, especially TT 2022, because you had Joe Lachlan on it was Supersport and the Twin, or the lightweight.
Yeah.
One, how does it feel going from being a racer to a team manager? Have you enjoyed that? And then what is it like bringing someone like Joe on? Because I saw you quite a few times, and obviously he was a newcomer at the TT, and he did really well at the Northwest. He got a podium at the Northwest, I think. Yeah. And
then, he won the race. Yeah,
he won the race. Yeah. And then he had a phenomenal TT as well.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, it could have been a bit better, but unfortunately through weather, one or two little mistakes here and there, and circumstances with red flags, etc., etc. He could have had a lot better, TT. Yeah, he's a fantastic rider. Very, very wild in his few years ago, and people were saying, "Oh, you're too wild. You won't tame him." So we'll try and put the reins on him and hold him back a bit, and he's matured because he's a bit older and whatever. And he's a fantastic rider. He's got loads of talent. and really nice to work with him. And that's nice. But I said, you've got to, for example, you've got to go and do some BSBs. Do some BSBs. It'll teach you so much. You can't just ride flat out around the Northwest trying to dive up the inside of people. You can do that for one lap, not 6 laps.
You're not going to get away with it all the time.
So I said, go and do some BSBs. You'll get your ass kicked, basically. You'll come in sweating like a whatever, because it's so hard, and you'll probably end up 25th, 30th.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what happened. And we did that, and it was the start of COVID. So he did one round, and then the next, I think he did 2 rounds, and he did 2 rounds the next. And there was another COVID again, so no Northwest. And then this year, as I said, do the Alton Park just before, which he did. And he did well. He did better his times, a little bit better each time. And he got the Northwest. And I was impressed with the fact that he won the Twins race on one of Mark Coverdale's patents, which is our main sponsor. And but I was more impressed with the fact that he finished 6th on the 600 race, dicing and beating people like Jeremy McWilliams. Yeah. And other people like that. And nobody came in and said, oh, that guy's nuts. He could do it lap after lap. Yeah. And his concentration would, be a lot better if you can concentrate in the BSB, because there are no mugs there. You can't hide anywhere. So you have to be pin sharp at every corner and on the money sort of thing. And that's what you got to bring to the roads with you. Yeah. And that's why Hickey and Dean Harrison and these people, do the BSB, because it's so hard. But when you get to the roads, you can feel it easy. A bit like I spoke about with the 250 with Steve Hislop, and I were doing European Championships. There was only probably 2 or 3 of us in that race doing European Championship, and that showed. Yeah, we were first and second.
Right, yeah.
So and that's why it raises the bar.
Do you enjoy kind of, 1, being a team manager, and then 2, bringing that youngster on, giving him all the knowledge that you've learned, because
I do.
A wealth of
I do. Yeah, and especially BSB. You make a change to the bike. I like setting up the bike and things, and think I'm okay at it. And they go out, and all of a sudden you see them go green, or sometimes purple on the timing board. When you're on the TV screen. And that's really satisfying. You think, yes, you got it right now. That's really good. And worked with quite a few riders over the last sort of 10 or so years doing this. Started with Ollie Linsdell back in 2008, right up to present. So, it's been good. And it's nice to work with guys who listen as well, and they really take it on board and things. Yeah. But it's difficult because you always get some who just know better, But that's youth, I guess. But so it's not always easy. It's probably 50-50, 50% of the time you're pulling your hair out thinking, why am I doing this? And 50% of the time then it's really enjoyable, because there's nothing in between, I don't think.
I guess the youngsters, surely they must know of you, but surely if there's that much pedigree there, you'd just sit there like a sponge, wouldn't you, and just absorb it all and take it all in.
I suppose it depends on, everybody's different, aren't they?
Depends on the personality.
The personality.
You're right, but
personality makes it.
If I was going to do the TT and Ian Lougher was sat there saying, this is what you need to do, I'd listen. I'd take it all on board. Absolutely. Yeah. So before we get into Steve's quick fire questions, what's the future for you? When are you actually going to stop racing? Or are you going to stop racing?
That's a big question, isn't it? I actually sort of packed in the TT in 2013. I said, that's it, I'm no more, I don't want to do it. And I said, but I'm going to carry on doing the classic TT. Mm-hmm. So to do that, you've got to have a multi-course license, then you have to do 6 races. So then I thought, I'll do Scarborough and places like this, a couple of enjoyable places, so you can get your signatures and all your races. And then in 2016, Suter came back with a 500, and I couldn't say no because it's a 2-stroke. And then they did it again in 2018. So in between, I've sort of been semi-retired. So I'm looking at it like that. So I haven't got an answer for that one, I don't think.
So we might see him back on the start line at the TT.
No more
TT. I thought your
TTs.
stats said his last podium was 2019.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. He just can't help himself.
Yeah. But anyway,
let's go, Steve.
Right.
Quick fire.
I've got 2 things actually. First one's quick fire questions. Now just give me an answer, one or the other, please. I want no descriptions. Okay. You answer it for your own reason. Beer or wine?
Wine.
Joey Dunlop or Steve Hislop?
I'm going to get killed here. I'm going to get back to Northern Ireland. Steve Hislop.
Pineapple or never pineapple on a pizza?
Pineapple.
Good lad. 2-stroke or 4-stroke?
2-stroke.
I knew that. Mass start or time trial?
Mass start.
Flipping heck. Balaf to Ramsey or Ramsey to the bungalow?
Ramsey to the bungalow.
Phillip McCallen or Ryan Farquhar?
Well, it's easy. Ryan Farquhar.
Wales or Northern Ireland?
Wales.
Patriotic.
That's a bad one for me as well. I've lived in Northern Ireland for 21 years and I love it.
Oh,
But
God, not more.
Right, TT 1984 or TT 2022?
1984.
Last one at this section. British champion or a TT corner named Lockers for the rest of time?
Don't be
Corner.
modest. Yeah.
Ooh, that surprised me. Right. Right, and just lastly, Ian Lougher, this is your life. 10 TT wins, 29 TT podiums. You've won in 5 different classes: 125, 250, Super Sport 600, Production 600 and Production 750. Former 250, your favourite lap record holder, and you held that for 9 years. That's flipping amazing. 35 years, as Chris mentioned, between your first podium and your last one in 2019. Bloody hellfire. You've ridden for all the top teams, winning on 2 strokes and 4 strokes. Other achievements: 8 wins, 26 podiums, Northwest 200, 18 wins, 44 podiums, the Ulster Grand Prix, 36 international road race wins. That's 3rd place behind Joey Dunlop and the ever-increasing waistband of Phillip McCallen. Classic 2T, 2 wins, 4 podiums. 5-time Southern 100 champion, which I know you're very proud of. A record number of wins at the Southern 100, 32. Record number of wins at Oliver's Mount Road Races in Scarborough, 139. Flipping heck. Former runner-up in the British 125 Championship. Only 2 points in it, should have won. Podium finisher in the 125, 250 and Super Sport 400cc at British Championship. Now team manager for more than a decade. And still completing the selected races, obviously like the Manx Grand Prix here on 250s. Ian Lougher, you're a racing legend. I'm in awe.
Thanks, Steve. Yeah.
Perfect way to end it. Ian, absolute pleasure. Thank you, sir.
Okay, no, thank you. Thank you. No, it's been good.
Thanks,
Okay,
buddy.
cheers.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Steve, Ian Lougher. Again, I keep saying this on at the end of every podcast now, it seems. You could spend hours listening to some of the stories, and we didn't scratch the surface between his debut and his first win. There must have been some stories in there.
Yeah, mate, well, that's great for the listeners because there's so much information and things they have never really heard of a lot of the time, and there's so much more information to come out of that man. He's been there, done it all, and so many different events as well. It's there's so many stories.
Here's what I think we should do: get him back on. Just give him a beer or 2. Just wind him up and watch him go.
Problem is, I'm a 1-pint wonder.
Oh, brilliant. It won't cost a great deal on expenses then, will it? This has been the Ian Lougher episode of the TT podcast. We have plenty more star-studded names on the way from the world of the TT. If you've enjoyed this one, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Make sure you leave us a rating and a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. We'll be back next week with another podcast, and don't forget you can get all the latest news, views, features and gossip over at the iomttracers.com website. And be sure to check us out on all the usual socials. We are at TT Racers Official. Steve, have you got social media?
I've heard of it.
If you can find Steve on it, go and follow him as well. Thanks for listening, everybody. Cheers, Steve.
Thanks, Chris.